Alright, I'm going to make this video to show you just a decorative wrap that I started doing on my rods. It probably has a name, I'm not sure. I know I just started this about my 6th rod, but I was messing around one day and decided to give this a shot. And here's just a quick one that I did already. Get it in here. All it is just a double threaded that white that I incorporate with the red. And it gives you that, nice little effect on it. So I'm going to show you how I do it. At least some people are wondering. So I started my, I hope this turns out, you're looking, this is the front of me where the camera is. So you might be upside down. It shouldn't, we'll see. You should still get the effect from this. But I started my hook keeper. Here's the butt end wrap that I started. And I'm just going to start this other wrap with the decorative end in it. So I'm going to take I already have my lines marked out. This is the start of my initial wrap. Here's the start of my decorative wrap, and then here's the end of my decorative wrap. And I'll just continue with the blue down to the end of the hook keeper. So I'll take my starting thread here. Start wrapping it. Cross my thread to keep it secure as I'm wrapping, like so. And I'm using just a hand wrapper. It's not, it's not a power wrapper or nothing. I'm just doing it by hand. Get my thread nice and tight as I start it, so I have a nice straight line. Get rid of those white markings from the grease pen. Okay. And I'll start my wrap. So I'll secure, get about 10-15 wraps in of my main thread before I cut it off. And then it's also important where you want to cut this off at. You don't want this really showing a whole lot. It's not bad where it's at now, but you got to remember where your hook keeper's at in comparison to where everyone's going to look at. This is where everyone's going to look. Right there is the very center top of the rod. So this is where everyone's going to see. So where my thread is at now, down here, is a good place to cut it off, so no one will see that. So I'll take my razor blade, just rest it on the thread, and then pull my main and cuts it right off. So I'll continue my wrap here up to my line, a little bit less than my line. I'll show you what I'll do here. Power wrapper would be nice, but you just don't get that effect when you're wrapping them by hand. You can hear the Pirate game in the background. 4-2. Pirates beating the Cardinals. Continue wrapping. And then about here is where I'll stop, because that's going to be the start of my little decorative wrap. All I'm doing is taking this white thread, taking about, let's see, I don't know, a good foot. You want to have more than less, because when you finish your wrap and you'll get down to the end and you realize you don't have enough to hold on to with your fingers, that's when it gets frustrating. So always cut more than what you're going to need. Like I said, this is about a good foot. Then I'm going to cut a white thread here. And then all I do is grab the middle of my thread, kind of get your both ends equal, distant, and then the end that you're wrapping, since I'm wrapping this way, which is to my right, I'm going to start my loop to my left. So I'm going to take my loop here, and remember, this is not the part everyone's going to see. This is the right there That's where the hook keeper is going to be when the rod is upright. So I'm going to start my wrap about right here, take my loop end, and start it opposite of the way you're wrapping, like so. And then get a couple wraps, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, tighten it up there. I might thread a little bit. So that's about 7 wraps to secure that. And then what you do is you take both of the tag ends of your white or whatever color you're using and kind of get them together like this. You know, get them to where they're touching. Actually get a rubber band on this. Okay, so you take those 2 ends, and what you're going to do is take them underneath your main thread so they're on the opposite side. So your main blue thread, which is here, is on my right. The white thread is on the left. And that's going to be your starting point. So what you do is you just pinch both of them, and you want to get your white thread as close as the already wrapped main thread as you can. You'll see here. And just start wrapping. Now it's important to get your decorative thread, whatever color it is. This is white, but it's important to get that to lay flat. You don't want to cross and over each other, because you'll notice how you can just tell it doesn't turn out just right. So if you start, you see how one thread went under, one thread came up. It's pretty meticulous to get it right. But you want them laying flat. So there's one wrap. Now I have the thread starting to cross over itself. So I'll just pull that out, get it flat, continue wrapping, kind of tighten that as I go. There's 2. I'm going to do 7 of these wraps. 3. And you can just use your other hand just to tighten these up. I hope my head's not in the way it shouldn't be. But you got to really focus on what you're doing when you're doing this if you want it to turn out nice. Tighten that up. Make sure it's all nice and straight. See, my thread was wrapping over itself. There you go. And it's good, you can put your thumb on top and it'll keep everything secure while you're manipulating your wrap thread. So that's 1, 2, 5, 4. 5. Keep that nice and tight. And it might come up a little short of my initial length, which is okay. I mean, we're not splitting atoms. We're just incorporating this thread into this, just for a little decoration. And it's nice you don't have one single color as you go. And then, so this will be my last wrap. And it's important, not important, visually important, to end your wrap where you started. You can see here, I started here and I'm ending here. So that just makes it more visual, you know, all your end wraps to secure where they started and stopped. So what you're going to do when you end your wrap is you're going to take, you can see the blue thread, it was on the opposite side of where it's at now. So the white thread you want to take when you're finished with your wrap and put it under your main thread, and that's going to secure it down. See there. And then just tighten that up a little bit. There's 3, 4, and all you're going to do is continue wrapping like you normally would, and that's going to secure those 2 tag ends down. You know, get as many wraps as you want in there, whatever you feel comfortable with. I like to do at least 5. Some guys do 7, some guys do 10. At least 5 I found to work. So once those tags end are secure, just come in with your razor blade and cut it off like so. And then you're going to just continue your wraps. And that's really all there is to it. It gets a little bit more involved whenever you're at the tip of your rod and you're doing those small eyelets where the action is very light, and you know, up here at the butt end it's a lot more easier to manipulate the string because you don't have enough you don't have a lot of flex on the rod when you're trying to do those little intricate designs. It makes it a lot easier. So we're going to get up to our foot of the hook keeper. Slow down a little bit. I got a little bit glue on there I'll take off. See how it wanted to go over. Just got it in. Need my thread because it's wanting to go. Tighten that up a little bit. There we are. And I'm over my foot of the hook keeper. Get about to where I'm going to put my loop to tie that end off. Stick that in there. Finish my wrap. Take it to the base of the where the hook keeper turns up. One more right there. And then you know this part. Put your hand, put pressure on the main thread. And I like to use scissors to cut this. Some guys use razor blades, but I find that the main thread will usually fray and can have a tough time getting it through the loop here. So I just cut it with scissors. And I'll take this, pull your main thread, take your hand off, grab your loop, yank it through, and there it is. And then just take your razor blade and come this way. Take your razor blade, cut it. See, I have a little bit of thread there. I mean, I'm not saying to use a lighter, but when it gets down to this, I'll just hurry up and hit it real quick. Because whenever you put that thread finish on, those little thread finishes here, you'll notice them. It's very prominent. Just that little bit. Let's take my clippers here. Get that off. Okay. So that's off, and there's your wrap. And this loop end that you started with, all I do, like I take a pair of nail clippers, get as close as you can to that, rest it on the rod. There you go. Try and get a little bit more of that. Like so. Get my burnishing tool. Just give it a couple finishes here. And that's all there is to it. As you can see, it gives it a nice little accent whenever you're doing the rod. Here's, like I showed you earlier, here's one I did in red. Same concept, just different types of thread color. And then here, this is the third guide down. As you can see, you can also do it here. Just gets, like I said, just gets a little bit more involved. Let that focus. Doesn't want to focus. You can still do it to these top tip guys, just gets a little more involved whenever you're working with that, you know, tip of the rod that isn't as stiff as the butt here. So that's all there is to it. I'll go ahead and this one I'll bring back this one again. I'll personalize them whenever I'm writing them. I just use a calligraphy pencil. This is the guy's name that I'm making it for, and that's the model. You know, the 2 to 6 pounds and the 1/16 to a quarter ounce lure weight. And I'll usually put the date on the bottom here and then my initials. It's nice to have that whenever you're getting old and you look down and, oh, this rod was made in 2014, and hopefully you get an old age and you can look back at that and reminisce a little bit. So that's how I do it. So good luck, and like and subscribe.